Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Sulaiman Rahim here, Messenger of the Covenant, breaker of the 7 seals. Brothers and sisters, welcome. Let's slay some demons. The fog. Brothers and sisters, is critical analytics war talk segment. We're going to talk about the fog. Where's the fog? We are now in the greatest fog ever in history. Fog, confusion, lies, distortions. No one can see clearly. Like when you're driving along and you run into a dense fog, no one can see anything. And then you have fear for your life because someone may come driving through there and hit you because you can't see anything. Sometimes the fog is so intense you can't even see, you can barely see yourself. That's the type of fog we're in, brothers and sisters. The worst fog of all times. See? And the scriptures that's supposed to be our guide is the fog, the sealed Bible. It is the fog. See? But there's a light to dispel the fog. That's the unsealed. See? But this fog is so intense, they're doing everything to block that light. This is an intense fog. But the light is going to prevail. It's going to break through. It's breaking through. But it hasn't broken through yet. This fog is intense, very intense. See? And most of you don't understand where the fog is coming from. See? And some of you think that the people that guide you through the fog, no, they're not guiding you to the fog. They're telling you they guide you to the fog. No. They're just as blind as you are. They can't see anything in you either. They're charging you. They charge you a fee to guide you through that fog. And they can't see any better than you. That's the problem with being blind. So you can't tell who else is blind. Another blind person can tell you they see. How would you know? So we're going to talk about this fog. Now let's look at an analogy here. Now we see the sun is controlling the solar system, controlling all 9 planets, and they're all in their separate orbits according to their natures. They're separated according to their natures, right? The denser planet, right? The most dense planet in the solar system is Mercury. It's close to the sun. You can get close to the sun without burning up. See? Then comes Venus. It's very dense. Not as dense as Mercury. It's very hot there. See? You can get close to the Earth without burning up. Then you have the Earth. Then you have Mars, and so forth, so on. Then Jupiter. Now Jupiter is the next largest planet. What is the largest planet? See, the sun is the largest object in the solar system. But Jupiter is the largest planet. It has a powerful gravitational field. Its field is powerful enough to control other planets. See? So if the sun was to disappear, then Jupiter would rule. But it wouldn't be a good rule like the sun, because it doesn't have the power of the sun. So it would cause the planets to rotate around it, but not in the orbits like they are. See? They wouldn't be spread out evenly. They'd be colliding with each other. Their moons would probably all have been destroyed in collisions. Maybe some of the planets themselves would be destroyed in the collisions, because Jupiter doesn't have the power to keep everything in nice harmony like the sun does. See? Now, what does this also mean? See? Because we're the sun. And we had all the nations in their place. It was peace and harmony. Hajj. See, everybody's rotating. Peace and harmony. No problems. Everybody, the Orientals in their place, right? The Japanese in their place. Asians in their place. Africans in their place. So-called Native Americans in their place. Everybody. And nobody was in conflict. Everybody was doing their own thing according to nature. There was peace on the earth. But then because of energy deprivation, the sun had to be removed. And they had to put Jupiter in place. So Jupiter tried to rule, but it was constant, it was chaos, conflict, confusion. Planets run into each other. See? Because that's the best Jupiter could do, because it didn't have the power that the sun has. Nowhere near it, but it has enough power to rule. I mean, he keep the planets rotating, but they're going to be in collision, they're going to be in conflict. See? Some of them won't survive it. See? What does this all mean again? Well, that's us again, because we're the original people, we're the gods, but then we were removed and put Adam in place. Gog and Magog. See? And all of a sudden they start colliding with each other. See? Some nations don't survive. They're satellites, they're moons. Some of them clashing and blown out of existence. You understand, brothers and sisters? And that will continue, because Adam doesn't have the power. He's like Jupiter, right? He doesn't have the power to control what the original nation was able to control. So his rule would be a rule of chaos, collision, war, until the sun began to rise again. Sit on the throne. Then it would separate the nations, right? Put them in their orbit again. See? Establish peace, everlasting peace. See? You understand, brothers and sisters? See? That's what's going on. See? But Jupiter wants to remain in control. See? And so the sun has to take control from Jupiter, because when the sun rises, right, the planets are still going around Jupiter, but down they start reorganizing. So Jupiter first starts moving around the sun, but all the planets are still moving around Jupiter. See? So eventually the planets have to start moving away from Jupiter around the sun itself. Because remember, Jupiter has control of the planets, but now Jupiter's forced to move around the sun, but it's got the planets still around, rotating around it. See? Until the sun's powerful enough to separate the planets from Jupiter, that cause them to go in their proper orbit. See? And that's the nature of Suleiman. That's what he's characterized as the sun. Because he's the only one who can do that. See? That's why the God, right, supports him. See? Because Suleiman is the only one. That's why he says he takes him as a son, because Suleiman is the only one who have power enough to put the nations back in proper orbit. Separate the demons out. So he's the one doing this. You got to separate the demons out. See? Then they got to put the original nation in the proper, right? Separate them. Because our body's all mixed up right now. See, the devil's, Jupiter has all the, like the moons and stuff, have all mixed up. So our body's all mixed up. Right now we got the feet controlling the head. You say, what you mean feet controlling the head? See, you have to think these things through. Who's running the original nation right now, aside from the demons? See, that's one of the problems. But an original people, defeat. How you know it's defeat? Because where's the solution to a problem? Sit-ins, marches, million-man march. See, sit-ins and march, because that's the way feet think. Minds don't think that way. Minds will come with science, mathematics to solve the problem. But feet, their idea of solving the problem is the way feet think. Let's march. Butts will say, let's sit in. This is not a joke, brothers and sisters. This is the nature. That's their nature, so that's the way they say things. Marching makes sense to them because they feet cells. Nothing wrong with being feet cells. But feet cells should not be running the mind. And our body's all like Frankenstein monsters, everything all mixed up. And the only one can separate that out is Suleiman. That he's the Christ, he's the anointed one, because he's the only one who could do that. The Son's the only one who could do that. Do you understand, brothers and sisters? That's why Suleiman is Suleiman. That's why he had the angel, because the angel has enough. The light is so bright, so powerful. That's what sun is. The sunlight that controls the planets. Sunlight and its gravity. So he has a gravity. The wisdom of Suleiman has a gravity, and the light is the angel. See? And it's going to put everybody back in the proper place. And then he returns all back to the Father, Master Farad Muhammad, the God. But that's why he's the only one who can break those seals, because he's the son that puts everything back to the proper orbit. The Hajj. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters, as a perfect analogy, because right now we have Jupiter in charge. He's doing the best he can. Adam is doing the best he can. See? But he doesn't have the power to do it. See? So then he turns vindictive and starts oppressing the planets. Because he can't get them, he can't control it like the sun did. So he starts beating on them. And that's why he's being judged. Because we're beyond, right, his mission, beyond his limits, beyond his commission. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. So let's move on to this fall, and then we're going to touch a little bit on Daniel. Yes. 1 second here. I had sound turned off. I just realized it. So let me correct that and start this over again. Okay. Let me correct that. Okay, I'm playing a couple of slides here. So let's do this again. Apologize for that. I forgot I had the sound off.
People are Jim Jones. At best, most of them don't even believe with sincerity Jim Jones did. But let's be completely clear.
One second.
This is not a semantic debate about critical race theory. Schools are teaching students, your children, that some races are inherently superior to other races. That's the definition of racism.
1 second here. 1 second still. 1 second, brothers and sisters. Okay, make sure I got that right. Okay, here we go. In fact, let me change this. 1 second here. Okay, change that one. Change that one. Okay. Here we go, brothers and sisters. I apologize for that. I forgot I had the sound off.
People are Jim Jones. At best, most of them don't even believe with sincerity Jim Jones did. But let's be completely clear. This is not a semantic debate about critical race theory. Schools are teaching students, your children, that some races are inherently superior to other races. That's the definition of racism. That some children are born with the stain of sin inherently? That's Nazi stuff. It is. It's totally un-American. That should never be allowed. It's also factually untrue. No child is born with the stain of sin. Stop it. Why are we even having this conversation? Well, one of the main reasons we are is because of the bravery of one man, Christopher Rufo. He is a journalist. He's been leading the coverage of this garbage in schools and workplaces all over the country, and we're proud to have him join us tonight. Chris Rufo, thanks so much for coming on. And I don't think it's an overstatement to say you've been single-minded on this, and you've been totally unafraid to say what it is, which is anti-white racism. Sorry, that's as bad as any other kind of racism, because we actually have a brotherhood of man. So thank you very much for what you've done. How do you respond to people looking at you and saying, oh no, it's all fake? Yeah, well, I've actually done the reporting. So I've shown through original source document reporting that critical race theory is absolutely taught in dozens of schools, and even a simple book that's taught in elementary schools called Not My Idea that tells white children that they are the devil, that their whiteness is equivalent with with Satan. I mean, these books are everywhere. The evidence is out there. I always report with full source documents. But here's the thing. The nihilistic and malicious elite in this country believes that your children are their property and that they can pump them full of ideology and simply lie about it. But what we've seen in Virginia, not just conservatives, but independents and even Joe Biden voters saw through the lies of these despicable people at MSNBC and the Washington Post, and they said, we want good education oriented towards excellence, not towards a reductive racialist ideology promoted by some of the worst people in our country. So what chills me is to watch these people casually defend something that's evil. So they're arguing, and they argue it on TV, that one specific race is inherently bad. So what's the end game here exactly? If a race is inherently bad, if it's inherently stained, if it's inherently disgusting, something we should eliminate, like what are they saying exactly?
Make mischief, shed blood.
Really if you look at the academic literature of critical race theory, the idea is to break down whiteness. So removing people's white privilege, putting them into a stance of humiliation and defeat and concession in order to redistribute wealth and property along racial lines. It's not really an exaggeration to say that critical race theory is a form of race-based Marxism, using racial politics to achieve the old Marxist ends of economic leveling and redistribution. And then they simply hide it. They play these linguistic shell games. They try to intimidate average people. They try to humiliate them and shame them. But average people rose up. They have nothing to lose. They want to protect their kids. God bless all of the parents and activists in Virginia who made this happen. And tell people once and for all, critical race theory has no place in our schools, no place in our public institutions. No, it's completely immoral. It's the opposite of what the country is founded on, and we should never put up with it. And that goes for you, Apple and Amazon, and all you other decadent creeps who are funding it. Chris Rufo, thank you very much. Good to see you. Thank you.
See, listen to this bullshit. Fool. Propagandists. This should never be taught. Now, they taught it to our children for 464 years. 465 years, they was inferior, they were animals, right? They treat them as animals, because that's what beasts do. Beasts have treat you like a beast. I mean, how's a beast going to act? If you're an angel, you're going to treat people as an angel. If you're a beast, you're going to treat people as a beast. Like a dog come and bring you a bone. He bring his favorite bone. Well, he think he's doing a great thing. That's my favorite bone. I'm giving the master. I don't want that bone, but I mean, he's a dog, and that's what dogs do. He's a beast. They treat us like how they treat us the last 465 years, like beasts, because they are beasts. So you listen to Farrakhan, he's hanging, hugging and kissing on them, because he's one of them. He's a demon himself, right? So that's not a problem for him. But listen to these people. That's not the founding line. That's not where our country was founded. That's not what your country was founded on? I mean, are you serious? They say stuff because that's what they want to hear. They want to lie to themselves. See? Because now they're in judgment. Do you understand what see, they said that when black folks were in the fields, Harriet Tubman said she could have freed thousands more if they knew they were slaves. So if you didn't know you're a slave then, how the hell you can tell me you understand your condition now? Because you can't. See? And these people, that's the fog. That's the fog I'm talking about. Because that's total bullshit. That's total bullshit, he says. See? So these people, and you think that you can change these people? That's the demons telling you that lie. Or we can change them, we're going to make them better. They have 464 years, 65 years to make, and they haven't changed yet, as the Bible says. Can a tiger change the stripes? That's the fog. That's the fog. Everything he said was just bullshit. Oh, this country is found. That's contrary to nature of what this country is founded on. No, you was raping and murdering, killing us. And you continued on for 40 years, over 40 years. Because you're monsters. But then you listen to him, it's like we all came here on the Mayflower, right? And Jesus was, he was the shipmaster, right? And the angels, they was guiding us and comforting us, right? See, and we came over here and to this nice country, and the natives, they said, "Oh, I'm glad y'all came over here. Welcome. I mean, in fact, we love you so much, we're gonna give you the country." And then we acted so badly, they had to punish us because we were so sinful. Listen to these clowns. Everything's just a lie. Listen to the next one. We're going to play the next ones. This is the fog that our people are under. And they believe in this crap. In the face of the actual history, so-called critical race theory is history. But you don't understand the nature of judgment. You don't understand it. You don't understand that you're in judgment. The judgment says all the books will be open. What books will be open? They're books. It says the judgment was set. So the judgment was set and the books are open. They're in judgment. It says 1619 to 2019, will be enslavement, Abrahamic covenant that most of you don't know anything about. That's another fog you're in. 1619 to 2019, 40 years enslavement. 2020 will be a plague that will kill the firstborn, that's the elderly, right? And that will be the judgment of this nation that oppressed us 400 years. The nation that oppressed us, God said he would judge them after the 400 years, where the judgment would start in 2020. You never heard about CRT and all that stuff before 2020. All of a sudden you hear about it because they're trying to hide the history. Oh no, we'll talk about that. See, but they're not saying CRT is not true. They just don't want to hear it. See, but then the judgment, so they can't close the books. They went by CRT. The worst is yet to come. The history has been exposed to the whole world to who they really are, what they are, and what they have been doing to us. And a big shock is about to come down because they're trying to hide our identity, who we really are. They're trying to hide that from the whole world, who we really are, by setting a false Israel out there to assume our identity. It's not working because that's about to come down and the whole world will see who we truly are. Because once the world sees who we truly are, then they'll know who they truly are. You understand? False Israel is the fog. See, but once they remove, that fog is removed, then they'll see who they truly are. And once they know who they truly are, they know who we truly are. And we're truly seed of Abraham. And if we truly seed of Abraham, that means they're the devils that they're claiming they're not. That's why they got this fog. That's what's keeping the fog going. False Israel. It's about to be removed. Listen to this next one.
The critical race theory itself injects race into the lives of our school children. It should never have any influence, let alone being taught. Now people say, you can say technically, Tucker, it's not being taught in the sense that, volumes have been written on critical race theory, and it's not been handed out as a textbook, but its influence and its tenets are in those schools. I've never figured out what critical race theory is, to be totally honest, after a year of talking about it. They're teaching that some races are morally superior to others, that some are inherently sinful and some are inherently saintly, and that's immoral to teach that because it's wrong. That would be my point. Well, what's also wrong about it, Tucker, is that it rests on this idea that racism and racial discrimination permeates the experience of citizens in America, that we are inherently and almost incurably racist.
True.
And that it influences everything, and that it
True.
sees the world through that prism. It's misguided, to say the very least.
No, it's not.
And people have had enough of it. No doubt about it in my mind.
You have. Sure, you should have enough of it.
Great to see you tonight. Thank you. Thank you. So if you were to trace...
See what I mean? They would teach it to our children for 400 some years, not by just words, but by example. See, we're inferior. If you go back and look at the Nixon tapes, one of the reasons why they didn't want to make it public because he was saying things that they didn't want black folks to know they were saying. He was saying black folks never done anything. They're the stupidest race on the planet. They never produced anything. This was President Nixon. He's supposed to be an educated man. This he was saying on his so-called Nixon tapes. And then we had, was that Supreme Court Justice, the one they call, the one that died not too long ago, the old lady, the old Jewish lady. She was saying black folks are stupid. And they covered it up. And black folks worshiping her. Oh, she's so, and because all the time she was saying that they were stupid, ignorant people. And they covered it up. And now it was just exposed recently, maybe I'll find the tape, that that's what she was saying. And she wasn't really hiding it either. But the news media was hiding it because she said it on an interview. And they hid it because they want Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I think her name was. A Jewish lady, they thought that she was so much for black people. She thought black people were stupid. And all of them think the same thing, just they haven't been caught on tape saying it. See, they catch them with blackface. Oh, well, that was ancient history. See, they all think that way. They all think that way. Okay, we're going to move on, brothers and sisters, to a little further into this. Let me see what I got here. Again, that's the fog. Okay, hold on. So set up here again. Mr. Fogg himself. Mr. Fogg himself. See? He sent into the Nation of Islam, make sure, because see, that was the light. That was the light ignited by Master Farah Muhammad. He definitely had to put that, they definitely had to put that light out. Guess they go co-pro, whatever they call it, the government. It was on their website. A COINTEL or whatever they call it, about what the FBI plans were for the Nation of Islam in the event of Elijah's departure. It was on their website. Well, we just published on their website that they wanted to undermine the Nation of Islam, destroy it if necessary, find someone that could cripple it, right? Take it away from the original message. See? Stop calling devils devils. See? Stop talking about separate nation. See? Start talking about personal, what they call it, advancement or whatever. I forgot what they call it. See? Bottom line, Scientology, Sunnism. And we're not going anywhere. And Farrakhan gave them everything they wanted. It's right in the document. We have the document. He gave him everything they wanted because he's a son of perdition. He's a son of perdition. He gave him everything they wanted. And they still follow this fool. Allah disemboweled him. That's a punishment reserved for hypocrites and liars. He disemboweled. Somehow he said that's some kind of virtue. Really? If show me a man on the planet would call disembowelment a virtue. Balls removed. That can't be replaced. You get in here after there's no replacement for that. There's no grafting balls back on. He's true. He's cut off from God. He's cut off from everything. Because he's a demon. He follows the devil. How in the hell you going? If you follow him, you might as well follow the devil. And how in the world can you justify, if you so-called follow Elijah Muhammad following the devil after you've been taught about Dr. Yaqub and everything else? And if you understand biology, he's a devil. If he comes down from the line of Dr. Yaqub, he's a devil. If he follows the devil, he's a devil. We call him demons, but he's still a devil. He's got the nature of a devil. If you understand the wisdom behind Dr. Yaqub, but you got the lesson, but they don't understand the lesson. In fact, they probably throw the lesson away. Because most of them are worshiping L. Ron Hubbard. It's sad. And they're going to pay a heavy price because they're going to tribulation because of it. But he's the fog. See? He's the fog that's encompassing the Nation of Islam. And then the deep fog over there, and the deep fog over there. The deep fog. Then they say add up. It's definitely not following Elijah Muhammad, because the purpose of Elijah Muhammad, right, was to further Master Muhammad's message of the covenant, Abrahamic covenant. Remind us of it and prepare us to go home. But Farrakhan says Master Muhammad's a liar, and so is Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad worked in vain because we're not going anywhere. Isn't that the same as calling him a liar? They're supposed to prepare a bridge, right, between Elijah and Joshua, or between Moses and Joshua, or Elijah and the Suleiman. The messenger of the covenant. You got two messengers, the messenger and the messenger of the covenant. And between the two, you got the one who's robbing God. Well, the man robbed God. So you robbed this whole nation. So you say Elijah Muhammad's robbing the nation? Is he? Was he? You saying the messenger of the covenant's robbing the nation? Of course not. You're talking about Aaron. He said you're robbing the whole damn nation because you're taking all the offerings that they think they're giving to God and you're using it for yourself. He hasn't produced a damn thing. But you get his money on Savior's Day. He changed it from Saviors, like, our Savior's Day, until Saviors. In other words, all Savior's Day. He changed the apostrophe and you didn't even notice. So you send the money, you think you send it to God to help the message. And he's using it for himself. He hasn't built a damn thing. All he does is enrich himself. That's all he's done with $500 shades and his $2,000 gowns and carrying on. He probably got a $5,000 wheelchair right now because he's got 2 damn feet in the grave, but he's supposed to get you across the water. He gonna get you across the river. How the hell he gonna do it with his wheelchair now? He ain't got much longer. He haven't done it 40-some years. All he's been doing is enriching himself. When a man robbed God, and it says, because you have done this, you're cursed with a curse. Now, what's the worst curse that can be imposed on a man and still be alive? This is empowerment. He's cursed with a curse, and it's a visible flame that falls away. You can't even see it because you're in a fog. Boy, you're in a deep fog. He got you in the fog over there. And now he's got rid of his archives because he's supposed to be a prophet, right? So if you got a prophet, you don't want to hide your prophecies because you want to go back to them as they see. Because remember, you're talking about in the future. So when the future comes, you want to be able to refer back to the past. They say, I told you this is going to happen. But if you get rid of that, that means you've been lying all the damn time. So you got rid of all his archives. Now you can't go back and see what they were saying in the past. Why? That's your strength. If you're a prophet, your strength is your prophecies. And your prophecies had to be before before the event. If you're a prophet, your strength are the prophecies. And your prophecies are things that you said before the event. So when the event comes, you're going to refer back to a prophecy. That gives you strength. But he's got rid of all the prophecies. Because he ain't no damn prophet, he's a damn liar. He got rid of it because that's his weakness. Because if you're a prophet, if you're a false prophet, your weakness is things you've said in the past. So you got to get rid of them. If you're a false prophet, I'll say it again, your weakness is you had to get rid of all the things you said in the past because they don't add up to what's happening in the present. See, now he's telling, America's going down, but he's been telling us that he's first going to be crucified. Well, he's already been crucified by Allah, right? The devil's going to come and crucify him. But then he's going to cause America to repent. See, that's what they've been saying. But now all of a sudden, he ain't saying that no more. But you can't go back to the archives and see what they've been saying. Why did he get rid of him? Because I can't. Because he's been lying in the past. Because he was telling the truth. Once he go back and say, see, here's this archive. I said this in 2001. I said 2008, right? Because he didn't see COVID-19 coming. He ran to it like a brick wall. He ran into it as a brick wall at 2,020 miles per hour like everyone else did. 1620 to 1619 to 2019, 20 years, as the Abrahamic covenant says, 2020 will be a plague that will kill the firstborn, which is the elderly, and pass over us. And he did not see it. In fact, he didn't even speak on it until 7 months later. And even when he had so-called Savior's Day, he never even mentioned it. And there was already 2 months in. Because it started in January, he's at the end of February, he has never mentioned it. All he talked about was Kobe. I guess he thought Kobe and COVID, I guess, sound alike. What he talked about. Never mentioned it until July. And then he lied. Oh, well, that had nothing to do with 16, because he said, we came over here in 1555. Of course we did. But he lied about that. Because Elijah Muhammad said we came in 1555. But it took 64 years to prepare us for slavery. But he's going to go back to 1555. So he said, well, 1555 to 1955, that's 40 years. No plague happened. So even if he go with that, right, he's saying that Abraham covenant don't really mean nothing. Because, they said a plague was going to happen and didn't. Either way, he's a liar. Because he's saying, oh, well, if we came in 1585, there should have been a plague in 1956, right? What he's saying, and he's saying if we are the Abrahamic covenant, if he's saying that we are the seed of Abraham, if that's what he's trying to say, and slavery started in 1555. That means the plague should have been in 1956, because 1555 to 1955, it's 20 years. That means the plague should have been in 1956, right? But it didn't happen. So otherwise, he's saying, well, they lied, man. That plague happened. Nothing happened. Well, it's obvious that 1619 to 2019, right, and plague did happen to 2020, because slavery officially started, even by their reckoning, in 1619. Muhammad said the same thing. It took 64 years to prepare us. But he's a lie. He's a lie all the way around, because that's the fog. That's the fog, brothers and sisters. And they can't see a damn thing over there. They're going to see it in a minute, because this light's about to break through. Any day now. Suleiman's going to break the first fog, right? The overwhelming fog, the source of the fog, false Israel, is about to be taken down. See? Before that happens, the angel light is so bright that said that light that pierced the darkness is about to pierce the inner eye and shed a light on who that clown is. And they're going to throw him out. That's what it says. Ancient of Days did set. But it said first, thrones had to be cast down. The authorities in the nation of Islam had to be cast down first. So that light is so bright, it's going to pierce through. And he's going to be exposed. See, because lights out over there, all of a sudden lights come on, and you see the rats and roaches running all around. You didn't see before. You heard some skimpering, but you didn't know still what it was. See? And then light come on, and then you see the rats and roaches all over the place. And what's the first thing you do? you pull out the bug spray. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. The fog. It's the fog. Okay. Our people in the great fog. A great fog. Okay. It's covering the whole land. It's covering the whole. It said they've deceived the whole world. The fog will cover the whole world. And the source of the fog is false Israel. The source of the fog. Because it says, soon as perdition, his works will be after the works of Satan. See? Satan casting out Satan. Isn't that what it says? And he calls himself casting out the so-called satanic Jews. It's so obvious who that clown is. He's Aaron. He's the one that came after Moses. He claims God anointed him. You better read that book again. He don't want you to read Exodus because God didn't want. He refused to give Elijah Muhammad spokesman. Elijah Muhammad kept. I want a spokesman. And he actually made him mad. He said, God got mad. He said, well, you don't need no spokesman. He didn't want. He was against Aaron, against him. But then Elijah insisted, so he finally gave it to him. Read it. So Farrakhan he was anointed. That's a damn lie. Show me anywhere in Scripture he was anointed by anybody. See, he's Aaron, the liar and deceiver. He got all people wiped out at the end. So I'm going to touch a little bit on Daniel, then we're going to let it go. Now Daniel's very difficult, especially the last 4 chapters. Man, they are like immense. I've never even touched it with you all before. And I'm going to lightly touch on that, very lightly, because they are so far. See, even Daniel got confused over that one. Those last 4 chapters of Daniel, oof, they are a monster. Right? Because they start using pronouns and you think they're talking about the subject and you don't know, they switch to somebody else. They start using pronouns and you assume they're talking about the same person they talked about in the previous sentence. They're not. Because you have to understand the first chapter. Daniel has 12 chapters. Actually, the 13th chapter of Angel is actually the 13th chapter of Daniel. But Daniel itself proper only has 12 chapters. And you have to understand the first 8 to have any idea what the last 4 is talking about. Because if you understand the first 8, you have no idea what the last 4 is talking about. And even if you know that, it's still difficult. So we're going to talk about this a little bit. It says, in those times, many shall arise against the king of the south. The Senate councils, see, king of the south, I'm not going to prove it here, I can, represents America. In those times, many shall arise against the king of the south and the robbers of thy people. That's the Sunni. It's called the robbers of our people. And it says the robbers of our people shall lift themselves up in order to fulfill the vision, but they shall fail. That's the what they call it, what they call those people, ISIS. So they're gonna rise up to fulfill the vision, They think they're going to reestablish Muhammad's kingdom, empire. And they're going to rise up and do it, and say they will fail. That's the vision. See, they don't realize that we are the vision. Because they claim, remember, they claiming they're the inheritors. And they know the inheritors Islam is going to rise again. But see, Islam will rise in the West. So they play games with it. They say, well, they tell me that means Syria. Because that's the most west part of the Arab world. So they say that's what they mean. And it'd be the black flag. You better start reading this stuff. If you read the Hadith, that means it says Islam will rise in the West. Right? Sun rise in the West. It'd be a black flag. That's where they got the black flag from. They call themselves ISIS. They say they the ones coming out of Syria. No, it's them over here in the West. That's why it says the robbers of thy people. They've been robbing us. They've been robbing us. We rob everybody. They're robbing us of our land. The robbers of thy people shall live. They were robbing us of our land for 50,000 years. The robbers of thy people, they've been robbing us, shall lift themselves up in order to fulfill the vision. The vision they think that is them, that belongs to them, no, it's ours. We don't fulfill the Abrahamic covenant. But they think, they say, well, Ishmael is. No, Isaac is. But they will fail. They did fail. Daniel's, it's a monster. Then look at this one. Then the king of North shall come and stir up a siege works. King of North is Iran. Keep that in mind. King of North is Iran. King of South America. They're going south. King of South is America. King of North is Iran. Then the king of North shall come, Iran, throw up siege works and take a well-fortified city. That's false Israel. That's what it says. They can build a siege. It said, shall come and throw up siege works and take a well-fortified city. That's false Israel. It's well-fortified, but they're going to lay siege to it. And the forces of the South, that means American forces, shall not stand. Right? That means they're going to knock them out of the Middle East. Right? And even his best troops, for they shall not have no strength to stand. That means God and Magog are going to be thrown out. They're not going to be able to help them when they lay siege to false Israel. I tell you, Daniel, I stay away from it pretty much, right? Because it's difficult. And explain to you all, it's very difficult. I mean, like I said, first I have to explain teach the first 8 chapters. And that's difficult because it's very subtle. You have to really understand that. And the angel, right now, the angel is enough for you. Right? So I'm just going to translate it for you. See? But it supports what the angel says 100%. So here's false Israel being sieged, and the king of South America, right? And Gog and Magog, they don't have no strength. They're going to be thrown out. They will not be able to help false Israel. That's what it's saying, brothers and sisters. But he who comes against him shall do as he wills, and none shall stand before him. He shall stand in the glorious land. See, talking about the glorious land, the Middle East over there. See? With destruction in his hand. That's talking about Iran. They're going to stand, they're going to take out false Israel, and they're destruction in the hand. And anybody mess with them, nobody's going to mess with him. He shall set his face, and he shall set his face to come with the strength of his whole kingdom. He shall bring terms of agreement and perform them. See? They're going to have total control of the Middle East. That's what it's saying here. That's what I've been saying. Daniel said the same thing, but in a different way. See? And I know you're not going to understand this. I mean, I'm not going to take time to break Daniel down, because, I mean, that's a lot of work to do. Break down so you understand as clearly as I do. But anyway, I just give you something if you want to study it. I don't recommend it, but some of you, maybe Daniel might be better for you than even. Daniel's a whole different way of looking at things. It's like the angel on steroids, but it's a whole different way. Everybody sees things different. Like some people can handle algebra, like knock it out, but trigonometry, they have trouble with it. And then maybe calculus they have trouble with it because they think differently. Everybody thinks differently. And maybe some of you might Daniel might hit you better than Angel. You might understand Daniel better than Angel because of your way of thinking. If you do, go for it. Have at it. I'm not telling you don't look study it. I'm just saying I stay away from it, right? And as far as teaching, I mean, I study it. Before I was teaching it, I've mastered Daniel too. But as far as teaching it, it's much more difficult to teach than Angel. Some chapters not so bad. See? And I want to mention something else before I go on this. Let me see what I got here first. Okay, yeah, let me back up here. Okay. You know, there's a story in Daniel. You might want to study it. Is when you got to understand who Darius is. Darius is master from Muhammad. He's the one that takes down Babylon. See, so he's the king. He comes, takes down Babylon, right? And then Daniel's associated with him, right? But the Chaldeans represents the Caucasians, right? They tried to trick Daniel. So what they did is they made a decree, and they had Master Prophet Muhammad sign it. I mean, they didn't actually have him sign it. They ain't talk to him. You understand? It's a puzzle. The whole idea is that everyone had to worship Master Prophet Muhammad. They had to worship Darius. If they didn't, right, they would be thrown in the lion's den. Now, lion's den is the lions represents our people. No, but they don't have their minds back yet because the lion had to have his mind returned to him. That has happened yet, but they're still lions. See, so that represents black people in general. See, it's a whole lot. I'm gonna get to the point because there's a whole lot of background information. I'm not gonna go and try to explain. But that's what lions represent. So in other words, you're gonna be thrown into the black community. They're gonna tear you apart. See. So in other words, you had to worship Darius, and anyone who didn't would be thrown in the lion's den. Remember you got to look at the specific, like I said, very subtle stuff. This was directed at Daniel. The point they're trying to show here is that Daniel refused to worship Darius. He refused to worship Master Prophet Muhammad. He refused to do it. See, but the Chaldeans set it up. See. Now I'm trying to give you a clean version. I mean, not a clean version, a clear version of what that means, so you can think about it. But when Darius figured out what they was trying to do, and he realized Daniel refused to do it, and Daniel was thrown in lines, then Darius got upset. But he went along with it, so he couldn't do anything. So all night long, he stayed awake, worrying about Daniel. So in the morning came, he's the first one, he ran to the lions and said, "Hey, Daniel, are you alive down there? Are you okay?" Daniel said, "I'm cool. They ain't mess with me. I'm cool. I'm mellow. The lions ain't touch me." Then he was pulled out, and Darius got mad, and I believe the story goes, he got rid of all the Chaldeans. Now, what is that talking about? See, I said Daniel's hard to interpret, so I'm going to just give you the short version. See? First of all, why did Daniel not want to worship Darius? Because it wasn't Darius' idea for him to worship him. See, it wasn't his idea. That was something they made up. See, they're talking about the demons. You understand? This Farrakhan, they're nonsense. See? But they wanted to get rid of Daniel. They wanted to get rid of Suleiman. They see, look, he's talking about Master Muhammad like he's equal to him. He ain't worshiping him. See, he's the God. See, Elijah Muhammad never said anything about worshiping him that I know about. But see, they're trying to set him up. And so he said, and they tell all the black folks, see, man, see all the black folks out there, like a Nation Islam, everything associated with this. See, man, look, he's trying to put himself above Elijah. Master Muhammad, he thinks he's a God himself. So we're going to get rid of his ass. See, that was their hope. See, look at him. He had to pretending that he's the one, and he won't even worship Elijah. He's not even worshiping Master Muhammad. Master Muhammad's a God. You get the idea? See? So y'all need to take that nigga down. Because they're talking about Master Muhammad like he's equal to something. Because he's not going to worship, so he must be his equal. See? So he's not representing Elijah Muhammad. See? You get the idea? That's the whole point. And Master Muhammad, the Rise never requested him to worship him. That was a setup. See? And Daniel would not worship him because he understands how his things work. He wasn't ever required to worship him. See? Because mathematics is the true Allah, is mathematics. And Master Muhammad is the supreme being, but he doesn't require us to worship him. And Daniel saw through the plot anyway, and he wasn't going to worship him anyway because he wasn't required to. Because that's not what it's all about. That's false religion. You understand, brothers and sisters? I hope I made it clear enough. Read the story. See? You have to read the end. You have to read it clearly because it's very subtle. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. See? There's no requirement to. That's came with religion, worshiping. We're not, even Elijah Muhammad, when he gave you prayers to say, he had you saying your prayers standing up, with hands outstretched. He had you bowing down. Nobody asked you to bow down to anybody. Now, when you meet Master Muhammad, if you want to bow your head, that's up to you. If you want to bow, it's up to you, but not required to do it. Because he's your brother. He's your big brother that's come to save your ass. And Suleiman is his younger brother, if you will, to come to save your ass. And nobody's asking you to worship me. No way. I don't want you. I don't have anybody call me the Honorable Master Suleiman. Bullshit with all that. I ain't interested in that. I mean, I have a problem, even the master, but I mean, that you have to learn respect. You have to learn respect. We have to learn to respect each other, right? And have mastered something. We got to prove I'm Master Angel, so I'm qualified to receive that title. Not master over you. So you hear me talk, here comes the Honorable. Bullshit, that's very, ain't nothing honorable about that clown. That's why you got to have people call him honorable, because he's not honorable. If he's not honorable, he wouldn't require people to call him honorable. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. That came with religion, worshiping things. I'm telling you a lesson. The so-called American Indians, right, they start worshiping sticks and stones. That idea of worshiping. We was brothers and sisters before. We had seniors, right? Scientists, leaders. But we was all brothers and sisters. We was all gods. And that's where it's going to return again. See? But you will be given commands until you get to the level where you can, just like a child, you got to raise the child. Once the child gets raised, you don't have to command them anymore. See, and you're still choosing. So you will receive commands until you're able to walk on your own. See, until you understand how you fit into the body. If your heart's cells, then you're going to be a heart. That's why I said Suleiman is his job to put everybody in perspective, put heart cells together, the heart and the liver cells together, and the lung cells together, put everything in the right orbit. Once you're in your right orbit, right, and you're following your nature, then there's no issue with you anymore. Nobody's going to tell you what to do because you know what to do. You're following your function, you're following your nature. I mean, why wouldn't you want to follow your nature? You want to go against your nature, hurt yourself. If you're suicidal, that's on you. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. We're going to leave it there. War talk, brothers and sisters. We're at war. And we got to dispel that fog. And that's what Angel is dispelling it. But Master Muhammad's getting ready to take down the source of this fog, false Israel. See? Because that's taking down the fog and and everybody will see clearly. See? These clowns, they don't want their history exposed. The history, they're in judgment. That's what judgment is all about. The history is exposed. So that means it's going to be exposed even more. It's not going away. It's getting worse and worse. This so-called critical race theory is coming more and more out. They even call themselves devils. Elijah Muhammad called, see? Now Farrakhan said, they ain't devils no more. What they see? That shows he's on the wrong side of judgment, don't he? Because their own records even call themselves devils now. They say, they even stand themselves. See, they made to testify against themselves. That's the judgment. They made to testify against themselves because it's coming from them. They're saying, we're devils. We're inherently evil. We're no good. They're saying themselves, that's the judgment. That's why you understand, brother, says you're in the judgment. America's being judged. They made it testify against themselves. It tells you that in the Quran. They made it to testify against themselves. All right, Assalamu alaikum.